Welcome to Category 5 Technology TV, episode number 389 for Tuesday, the 3rd of March, 2015. It's so nice to have you here. My name's Robbie Ferguson.
And I'm Hillary Rumble. Welcome, everyone.
Tonight I'm going to be talking with Mitch Wilkie, who joins us from CBM Canada. We're going to be discussing their unique use of 3D printing technology in order to help children in developing nations. You want to stick around for that interview? That's coming up in just a couple minutes' time. Sasha Dermatis, how are you?
I am fabulous. Thanks for asking. I would like to off the hop say that we have been having a little bit of trouble in the teleprompter in the newsroom. So if I all of a sudden freeze, it's because my screen has. But here is what's coming up in the Category5.tv newsroom. HTC is to release a virtual reality headset as part of a tie-up with Valve, a leading PC video games publisher. The year 2038 is still more than 2 decades away, but software developers should be thinking about that date now, particularly in the Linux world. TalkTalk customers are being warned about scammers who manage to steal account numbers and names from the company's computers. Bill Gates has been declared the richest man in the world for the 16th time by Forbes magazine's annual ranking of global billionaires. IKEA has unveiled a range of furniture fitted with wireless charging spots for mobile devices. A problem during a server update left many Samsung smart TVs looking dumb this week. Stick around, the full details are coming up later in the show.
This is Category 5 Technology TV. Starring Sasha Dermatis, Hillary Rumble, Krista Wells, Eric Kidd, and your host, Robbie Ferguson.
This is Category 5 Technology TV. Thanks for joining us tonight. Now, as you know, Category 5 TV is quite interested in any use of technology that is going to better the lives of the users of that technology. And our guest tonight is no exception to that, working with the University of Toronto in order to improve the lives of children in developing nations using a very unique use of 3D printing technology. Mitch Wilkie joins us from CBM. Mitch, it's great to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about your company and or your organization, I should say, CBM, and how it is involved and became involved with the University of Toronto?
Yeah, so CBM is probably the world's largest disability and development organization. So we're helping the poorest people in least developed countries around the world. And again, it's focused on disability and primarily children as well. People may have known us in the past as Christian Blind Mission, but blindness is not the only disability that we focus on. We cover everything from physical to mental disability. So what had happened to lead us into this project is we always talk about innovative things at CBM, and CBM Canada was aware of a problem that originated with a report from the World Health Organization back in 2003. And in that report, they talked about this huge gap of not many prosthetic technicians being available in the less developed world. So what they said is there's a shortage of 40,000 of these prosthetic technicians, and it would take another 50 years just to train 18,000 more. And we said, wow, this is a terrible problem.
Now, with having such a small amount of technicians, what kind of problem are we facing here when it comes to the need in a developing nation such as Uganda, where your work is
Sure.
being
So let me give you some context to this. Well, the World Health Organization estimates that about 10% of the global population, so that's nearly 690 million people, have a disability. And 80% of those, 80% of those are in less developed countries.
I see. Okay.
Okay. So this is all disabilities. It's not just people that have suffered an amputation. Now, if we focus just on that in particular, there's all kinds of causes for amputation. One of the major reasons right now is survivors of landmines. There's probably about a 300,000 people population of landmine survivors. 26,000 are added to that number every year. So that's probably the greatest reason for amputations. Now, there's all kinds of accidents that happen. It could be industrial and work-related accidents in less developed countries as well. Even car accidents. Like if you go to some of these countries in Africa, as an example, the driving in our context would be very reckless. People are on motorcycles, they don't wear helmets, and they do fall off and, of course, get severe injuries. There's also terrorist attacks. There's a lot of civil strife in many of these less developed countries. They also have what I would call our stressed public health systems. So there's people that are adopting more Western diets. There's high incidence of diabetes. We know that leads to circulatory problems. That will lead to amputations. Someone might get an injury and they can't get to a hospital very quickly. It might even take them a week to get to a hospital. Then you can get gangrene setting in. That could lead to osteomyelitis or bone infections, and that could result in amputations as well.
So here we have doctors who are able to perform, say, the amputations and surgeries in order to basically save the patient. But what happens when it comes to a child who has lost a limb, and you know, where do they go when there are so few technicians to be able to provide a prosthetic limb?
The problem is, in addition to this gap of prosthetic technicians, it takes a long time to get a child or adult fitted with what we call a prosthetic socket. And the socket is the customized piece that's like a cup or a bucket that fits onto the residual limb. The rest of an artificial leg would consist of a pylon and a foot. And these are just standardized parts that come from the International Red Cross and Red Crescent Society.
Okay. So right now, are these parts being flown in and provided en masse, or how do individuals? I would assume that these are expensive pieces. So
well,
how do I come into that?
Yeah, a prosthetic leg in the less developed country is very different than what you'd get in Canada, as an example. Yep. In Canada, time isn't so much of an issue to get a good fitting prosthetic leg and socket. There's different technology that's used to achieve that, and you could spend anywhere from $5,000 to $15,000 to start to get fitted with a prosthetic leg in Canada. Well, in a less developed world, we have to get that cost down to about $250.
And that's Canadian dollars.
Yes,
so
and there is a system or a methodology that was developed by the International Red Cross or Red Crescent Societies. So they are producing pylons, which are essentially the leg portion, and then artificial feet. These pieces are cut to size and they're bolted together, and then they're attached to this socket. But now the socket in a less developed world, it takes about 6 days to produce one. So if you imagine a residual limb, patients sit on a table, and if we talk about a below-the-knee amputation, on that residual limb, they have to wrap plaster of Paris bandages around this limb, and they're creating a negative cast on this residual limb. From that, they make markings on this cast.
A mold, basically?
A mold. This is taken off. There's more plaster that's poured inside this negative cast, and a steel rod is placed in the center. When this dries, it creates a positive cast. And this plaster cast has to dry for a period of time, and it's often just put outside in the African sun.
Oh, I got you.
And once it dries to a level a prosthetic technician wants it, they will then take that and they will remove material by filing. They will add colored plaster to the surface, and all while feeling the residual limb of the patient. So it's very much a craft in addition to their theoretical knowledge, but they're feeling for muscle mass, cartilage, tendons, bone protrusions, all on this residual limb, and they have to best represent how this positive will represent that limb. once they create this plaster positive, the next step is to create the socket. And the socket is made out of polypropylene plastic. It comes in a sheet. It's heated up in an oven.
Yeah.
And it's then wrapped around this plaster positive, and a vacuum is applied to it. So this polypropylene plastic is sucked down against this plaster model. And from there, it's welded, it's pulled apart, it's ground, and then they do more fabrication and fitting to attach it to the residual limb and also the pylon and foot. So the patient, for example, if it's a child, may have to come from a very far distance to go to a hospital.
Sure.
It's not unusual for them to travel days.
And would they encounter a large waiting list in a situation like that?
Not necessarily. We would have workers that would typically identify these patients in need that are in the village areas, but it may be days. The one patient, we were just in Korsu Hospital in Uganda in January, and it was 65 hours for this 4-year-old girl to come to the hospital to get fitted.
Wow.
And the fitting takes about a week, as I said. So, you know, looking at this problem, there's only 12 prosthetic technicians in Uganda. There's about 250,000
We're not talking
people.
1,200 technicians. We're talking 12 versus
12.
How many children that are in need of prosthetics?
In Uganda, there's 250,000 children that are in need with some disability. So for 12 prosthetic technicians to serve this kind of population, you can imagine there's many that are not receiving a prosthetic leg. So if you imagine the person coming in.
Sorry, Skype makes it sometimes a little bit difficult because we talk over each other when with a little bit of a delay.
Sure.
I'm thinking just before we move on, we've got 12 technicians in Uganda who are servicing and serving 250,000 children who are in need of some form of prosthetic limb so that they can continue to play sports with their friends and even just be mobile enough to be able to help out with the family tasks and everything. So it sounds like a massive undertaking for, I mean, it would be a massive undertaking for that ratio anyways, but working in a developing nation, I would expect that it's a huge undertaking for each of those technicians. It must be a stressful job and to do your best to be helping those children and be so limited by the resources that are there for them. So my question to you, Mitch, is what is the solution that CBM and CBM Canada and the work that you're doing with the University of Toronto, what have you come up with to try to alleviate some of the I guess stress or workload on those technicians, but also to help more children who are in need of prosthetics?
Yeah, so first of all, there's this gap. There's not enough technicians, and it takes too long for them to produce a prosthetic socket. So we were looking at how could we expedite that. And we wanted to see if we could apply 3D printing technology to this. So we first put in a grant request to Grand Challenges Canada. We did receive funding that started to provide the seed money for us to explore this. We then had to find a principal investigator, and that led us to the University of Toronto and Dr. Matt Ratto. So Dr. Ratto heads up the Semaphore Lab at the University of Toronto. They do a lot of experimentation with modeling and 3D printing, and we discussed how could we perhaps resolve this. So this started about 1.5 years ago, and in that time we were looking at scanning technology for 3D, and there's been a lot of changes just in the past 18 months. The first scanning we were looking at was photogrammetry, where we're using a digital camera to take many pictures of a residual limb, and then these would be knit together to produce a 3D image. Then we started to use the Xbox gaming system, the camera from it.
It's amazing.
And now that particular technology is in a handheld scanner by a company called Sense, and December of 2013, Apple Computer bought that technology. So I wouldn't be surprised in a future iPhone we'll have 3D scanners.
That's interesting. So when you talk about 3D printing technology, now we think about the trinkets that we see, but it is becoming more and more of a useful technology. I think about the space station and how they kind of emailed a tool to the space station cosmonauts so that they could 3D print it. So are you talking about installing 3D printers in nations where it's needed, or are you doing the 3D printing in Canada and then shipping these prosthetics at a cheaper price? How does that work?
Well, no. So actually, it was getting the scanning at first to produce a 3D image of a patient's limb. The next step was, well, how do we create the socket? So we brought in Autodesk Research, and they've got software called Mesh Mixer. So it just so happens that the student that developed Mesh Mixer was at the University of Toronto and ended up getting his software bought by Autodesk, and he's now working for them in the research. But they partnered with us, and they've tweaked this Mesh Mixer software to work with a scanned image where a prosthetic technician can build a model socket, and much more accurately than all this handcraft work that's done with plaster of Paris and polypropylene plastic. So
does that take a lot of the workload off of the technician?
Well, right now we're testing it out. So in January, we were at Corsu Hospital in Uganda. We had all the technology there, the scanner, the software that we're using. We're training them how to use it. And we've got MakerBot 3D printers, and we're using a starch-based plastic filament to create the socket. Yeah. But in the past 18 months, we did all the research behind that to prepare the software, to do the stress load testing on the socket, to make sure it was acceptable. But yes, now we can scan a patient's limb in about 45 seconds. We can spend about 3 hours where a technician can build the socket on a computer, and then it can be sent to a printer where the printer will create it in about 6 hours.
Unbelievable.
So now we've got this process down to 1 day from what would normally take 6 days. So you can imagine a prosthetic technician can have greater output now.
To keep that in perspective, 250,000 children. So the difference between like a 1/6 ratio in time that it takes to create doesn't just mean faster turnaround, it also means more children who are helped. So what is the vision for your project, and where do you see this going on a grand scale over time?
Sure. So our next phase is to do clinical trialing. We're going to do that with 35 patients at Corsu Hospital in Uganda. That'll probably take another 6 months. We're also starting to prepare for scaling up. My expectation is that CBM Canada will set up a social enterprise because we are a not-for-profit charity right now. So social enterprise would be for-profit, but the majority of the funds that are raised would be plowed back into the program to scale this concept up. We're not quite sure where we're going to go with it and how we would roll it out. We still have research to do over the next year. But this social enterprise may have software as a service model as an example, where people would basically prescribe to or subscribe to the system. They could download the software for free. They would be able to use low-cost commodity items, 3D printers that maybe cost $3,000, a scanner that costs $500, and use our software and have access to training on how to create prosthetic sockets. And this could be rolled out through CBM's channel. We're already working in 68 countries around the world. We're supporting a lot of hospitals with this kind of work. So we've got that framework in place to roll this out very quickly. There's other people that are doing similar kind of work that we're doing, but they're using much more expensive equipment. Like even MIT University, they use CT and MIR as scanners. They're using printers that cost over $1 million. You just can't apply that into a less developed world situation. Our products are very inexpensive, really under $10,000 for the whole package. Right. So it's just commodity 3D printers, commodity scanner, and our software bridges everything together.
So we're looking at it not only as the per unit prosthetic a lot cheaper, but also the startup for the hospitals and the technicians themselves.
Yes, that's right. And we don't want to eliminate prosthetic technician jobs. Like, we're not trying to de-skill them. We were actually trying to add skills to them so they can have a new tool and do better output.
Sure. And how has the reception been by these technicians?
Oh, absolutely. They're on side. We're also working with the International Society of Prosthetics and Orthotics. They're keeping abreast of updates on our technology, and they're endorsing our system as well.
Very good. So, are you operational at this point in a developing nation?
Yeah, I could say that we've proven the concept at this stage right now. We've fitted a couple of patients at Corsu Hospital, but we're looking at how we can still improve the system as we do the clinical trialing.
Yeah, right.
The technology is changing rapidly. Like when we first started off, we were using $3,500 printers, and we went to a better printer that cost about $7,000 because it had a larger printing bed. But then we're able to go back to smaller printers. We could print a socket into smaller pieces and then actually fuse them together.
Okay.
So the printer output was faster.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things we can explore here. There's also what we call orthotics instead of prosthetics. Prosthetics would be helping someone that has a missing limb. An orthotic would be something that might be a bracing. There's a lot more bracing that's required for this kind of work in helping patients. Corsu Hospital has already been experimenting with 3D printing for maxillofacial surgery. There's people that come in with a tumor on their jaw, so they have to rebuild the jaw bones using bones from the leg. But the 3D printing modeling can help set up almost like a miter box for the jaw bones, and they could save 3 hours off the operation. So there's all kinds of applications that we can explore through this social enterprise that we'll be setting up.
I would expect that the hospitals in these developing nations, the cost of the prosthetics would be less than the traditional method?
Absolutely. We've got to get the cost down to $250 to $300 because that's typically the annual income for a family in Uganda. And, if you take a 10-year-old child that lost their leg, they're going to need about 25 prosthetic devices over their lifetime because every 6 to 12 months they're growing 2 centimeters, so they need a new socket. As an adult, they need less, but nonetheless, they're still going to need a lot over their lifetime. It's difficult for them to afford one, never mind 25.
That's tough.
A lot of these families, it's subsistence living, it's agricultural, they're exchanging or bartering goods. They can't even raise the cash to get to the hospital and buy this prosthetic leg.
So are there charities that are becoming involved with this project in such a way that perhaps there's some fundraising that goes toward helping these children?
Well, that's essentially what CBM is doing. We're fundraising through donors, and we will work with partners to deliver solutions to people in need.
Wonderful. Mitch, how can we help?
How can you help? You could pay attention to the project. We do have a website. It's www.3dprintability.org. We will be doing regular updates with that. We're happy to receive donations toward these efforts, and we've got a lot of need out there. So I would expect in a year and a half's time, we'll be ready to start rolling this out on a grander scale and serve a lot of people in need.
Wonderful. Well, it's such an interesting and innovative use of the 3D printing technology. I love to see technology being used to help people that really, realistically, like you say, $250 is potentially a full year's income for someone in Uganda. And when you think about the regular cost of a prosthetic limb, it's so astronomical that it would seem impossible and absolutely unattainable. So to be able to bring it down to a price that maybe could be achieved by contributions from viewers and people around the world who want to support a project like this. So
Yes. And we want to get these children walking, being able to play, to help out around their household, to be able to go to school, to eventually be able to earn their own livelihood and be accepted as anybody else would be.
Mitch, thank you so much for being here with us, and I wish you all the best with this project, and to you and your entire team. Just keep up the great work.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, Mitch. This is Category 5 Technology TV. Now we're off to the newsroom. Here's Sasha Dermatis.
It's Tuesday, March 3rd, 2015, and here are the stories we're covering this week. Valve and HTC are bringing immersive virtual reality to users with the new Vive headset. The Linux apocalypse is looming. TalkTalk is warning customers about scammers who stole their personal information. Bill Gates is still the richest man in the world. Setting your phone down on the coffee table will charge its battery thanks to some innovative tech furniture from IKEA. And Samsung has had a rough few weeks, what with sharing voice data over unencrypted connections and then some of their smart TVs turning dumb. These stories are coming right up. Don't go anywhere.
If you'd like to have a cool virtual set just like Sasha Dermatis, visit cat5.tv/green. And currently there is a sale on all your green screen needs. Check it out, cat5.tv/green.
I'm Sasha Dermatis, and here are the top stories from the Category5.tv newsroom. HTC is to release a virtual reality headset as part of a tie-up with Valve, a leading PC video game publisher. The HTC Vive will be paired with wireless controllers and tracking technology to let wearers explore computer-generated environments by walking around their rooms. A test version of the kit will go on sale to developers shortly, followed by a public edition later this year. It will compete with Facebook's Oculus Rift and Sony's Morpheus VR headsets. The machines let wearers view computer-generated 3D environments to give them a sense of being there. The announcement marks a change of strategy for HTC, which has focused on smartphones. Wow, so I wonder, you put the headset on and then your whole room turns into a different room? Is that how it works, Robbie?
I like that idea.
Yeah, except I wonder if then would you maybe trip over your coffee table?
I don't think you're actually supposed to run around, Sasha. I think that would be a bad idea.
Well,
have this headset on, and that's the opportunity to do all your walking.
I just feel like I'm very klutzy, so we'll see how that works.
Alrighty.
The year 2038 is still more than 2 decades away, but LWN.net editor and longtime Linux kernel chronicler John Corbett believes the software developers should be thinking about that date now, particularly in the Linux world. He raised the issue at his annual kernel report talk at the Linux Foundation Collaboration Summit in Santa Rosa, California this week. Time to start worrying, he said. The issue is similar to the dreaded Y2K bug in that a long-standing deficiency in the way of some computers record time values, is due to wreak havoc in all manner of software, this time in 2038. Back in the early days of Unix, when 2038 was almost a century away, time codes were implemented in 32 bits. Now we're going to run out of bits in which to tick off seconds. Specifically, that's going to happen at exactly 3:14:07 on January 19th, 2038. So why worry now when we still have decades to fix the problem? Corbett warns systems are being built and deployed now that will still be in service 23 years from now. Linux-based systems are being put into cars, into building control systems, into power plants, and who knows how many other places where they will just simply sit there and do their job until time runs out of bits, and then they won't work anymore. While it's far from being too late to address these issues, each year that developers produce software that doesn't take 2038 into account only compounds the problem. Time will tell how seriously software engineers take this problem, but Corbett says he doesn't see a lot of firm planning going on. Gee, Robbie, will that affect us in any way, or
in that many years?
Yeah.
I think where it really is a concern is you think about machines that are created in order to last. They're built to last, and so they put Linux on it, and that makes sense. You've got Linux machines that are still in operation from the 1960s, 1970s kind of thing. Well, not Linux, Unix though. But Linux obviously didn't exist. But Unix, which Linux is kind of based on, has been around for a long time. And there are machines that are still out there in operation, which is crazy because the technology has changed so much. Yeah. But what happens if something that is based on Linux now still exists 30 years from now?
Right.
And what kind of problems would that cause?
Y2K type problems.
Even worse.
Oh.
Most likely worse.
TalkTalk customers are being warned about scammers who manage to steal account numbers and names from companies' computers. An email sent to every customer, TalkTalk said scammers were using stolen information to trick people into handing over banking details.
Oh dear.
TalkTalk said it had sent the email to every customer, although only a few thousand account numbers went astray. It has set up a dedicated phone line for customers targeted by the scammers. The theft of data was unearthed when TalkTalk investigated a sudden rise in complaints from customers about scam calls between October and December 2014. This seems to be a recurring story that happens week by week, where companies have just been infiltrated by scammers and their stuff just goes...
Well, you know what? Like anything, I think they're looking for ways to compromise your private information, and in this case, confidential financial information. Mm-hmm. If I can compromise your bank account, well, then I can take your money.
Yeah.
So doesn't it seem legitimate when somebody calls you up and says, "Hello, I'm Robbie. I'm calling from such and such company," and you're okay, yeah, I deal with that company, right? So name a company, right? Do you still live on such and such road? Oh yeah, that's me. So they're able, because they've got the information, to make it seem really legitimate. Mm-hmm. But fact is, I had a phone company call me just recently, and it turns out it was them, but they were trying to get information from me. I said, "How am I supposed to know that you're really the phone company?" And they're, "Well, can I confirm your account? Do you still live on?" And I was, "No, I'm not answering that question." But a lot of people will fall for it, and we need to be careful that you don't fall for that ever, even if they present legitimate sounding information. If you didn't make the call, how do you know that it's really them? And in this case, like TalkTalk, they had the information. They could make it seem legitimate and get your credit card information. Yikes.
Scary stuff.
So yeah, it happens a lot.
Bill Gates has been declared the richest man in the world for the 16th time by Forbes magazine's annual ranking of global billionaires.
Come on now.
Yeah, the Microsoft founder...
He looks so happy about it.
He does look so happy about it. The 16th time. He's probably just, it doesn't even faze him now. Just like pours himself another coffee. He's like, yeah.
No, he's like, Bill Gates is like, richest man in the world again? No. Still. Somebody
once told me that if Bill Gates saw $1,000 laying on the side of the road, it would not be worth his time to actually stoop down and pick it up because he makes more than that, like second by second. Like he just makes
I guess that's true. Not that it's true that he wouldn't walk
past it, but it wouldn't be worth his time to pick it up. The same way you might not pick up a nickel. I do.
I think though that he would have to reach the point where there is so much wealth that wealth means absolutely nothing. To the point, like if you had that kind of money, it would be like a penny on the sidewalk. You just it's so small that it...
Does he still have all that money after he's been giving away so much? Like doesn't he have something with his wife where they're just giving away all of their money?
Yeah, the Bill Gates Foundation.
Yeah.
They do all different kinds of good.
Yeah, and they still have so much. What a crazy problem to have.
Yeah.
The Microsoft founder once again beat Mexican businessman Carlos Slim to the top spot.
To be fair, he didn't actually beat him.
Mr. Gates' net worth rose by just over $3 billion this year to $79 billion. Just $1 billion shy, Bill Gates, and you'll be there at the 80. There are a record 1,826 billionaires in the world, Forbes said, an increase of 181 in the past 12 months. Mr. Gates has now been on the top of the list for 16 of the last 21 years. Legendary U.S. investor Warren Buffett regained third place in the list with a net worth of $72.7 billion. Congratulations to both of you. Furniture giant IKEA has unveiled a range of furniture fitted with wireless charging spots for mobile devices. The Home Smart range will initially include lamps, bedside tables, and a coffee table, as well as individual charging pads for any surface. IKEA has used the wireless charging standard, QI, which is also supported by Samsung in its latest handset, the S6. The Swedish furniture firm will sell charging covers for incompatible iPhones and Samsung models. Environmental group Friends of the Earth urged caution over the recyclability of such products. IKEA said in a statement that its wireless charging products are easy to fraction at the end of life, and expands on that by pointing out, by adding wireless chargers to home and office furniture, we minimize the amount of separate chargers needed. Which does make sense, except if your charger is embedded into your, say, side table and your charger is pooched, then all of a sudden you need a whole new side table instead of just a new charger.
Yeah, I guess so, if you're really relying on it.
Yeah. I don't know. I would be interested maybe in actually buying one piece of furniture that would charge my phone. No, I wouldn't outfit my whole house or anything, but I
don't know, because I kind of feel like if I was going to set down my phone to charge it on my bedside table, well, that's where the cable is, and I plug it in and I leave it there. So it doesn't make any sense to me to have to.
Yeah, but then everybody in the family's phone could be on the table.
Yeah.
Then you don't need lots of cords.
iPod, your phone.
So you don't have to have like the whole Griswold family Christmas kind of rig of electrical outlets.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I actually I really like the idea. I want to be able to charge everything like on the coffee table, which would be funny because you'd come in and your coffee table would be like stacked up. With all this.
You've got phones everywhere.
There should be maybe IKEA would have been smarter to have like a charging drawer in all of its furniture so that everything just is hidden away.
So you actually have to put it away for once?
Yeah, a little charging drawer, a timeout for your phone. It'd be good too to get on a plane, maybe. I mean, IKEA doesn't make planes, which is probably for the best. But to get on a plane with your phone dead and get off of it full. The assembly instructions.
Yeah, on a plane by IKEA.
Lovely.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, I like the direction it's going. We'll see.
Right.
A problem during a server update left many Samsung smart TVs looking dumb this week. Affected sets were unable to connect for 2 days, meaning owners could not use their more advanced features. The problem is now fixed, Samsung said. It follows a series of issues for the firm in recent weeks, which admitted that its sets were sharing users' voice data. Before opening an investigation into why its TVs were adding adverts to media played via third-party apps. In a statement released on Thursday, Samsung said that it conducted its regular update of the Smart Hub server last Tuesday. During this process, it was reported that some of our customers in certain countries encountered difficulties connecting their smart TVs to the server. The difficulty was caused by errors in matching the country code with the relevant server, and the issue has now been resolved, the company said. Research analyst Paul O'Donovan said, "These are new and more advanced than what we've had in the television market before. They take some time to settle down, maybe within the next year or so."
Yeah, I guess.
Now, see, when I first read the story, I thought that I had had the problem that they had, but it turns out that I just have a very glitchy smart TV because it doesn't always connect, but it wasn't out for 2 whole days.
Did you speak to it? Did you tell it that you want it to connect? Like,
it's weird.
Well, it's listening. It's listening.
It's listening. Everybody's listening when I speak to it. Wow, what a paranoid schizophrenic must think at this point. The TV is listening to me. I always knew it.
Oh, dear.
Oh. For all your tech news with a slight Linux bias, visit the Category5.tv newsroom at newsroom.category5.tv. For the Category5.tv newsroom, I'm Sasha Dermatis.
Thank you, Sasha. This is Category 5 Technology TV. You'll find our website at www.category5.tv. Thanks for tuning in tonight. My name's Robbie Ferguson.
And I'm Hillary Rumble. Thank you for watching, and we're so glad you are here. Just an FYI, Category5.tv is a member of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. And you can check that out at cat5.tv/TPN. And we're also a member of the International Association of Internet Broadcasters. And you can look that up at cat5.tv/IAIB.
Thanks, Hill. All right. I just saw a notice there that your mic is a little bit low, so I'm just going to fix that and bump that up. There we go.
No worries.
How's that?
We're good to go, I think.
Yeah,
Ready
great.
to rock
there
this.
We go. She's pumped. There you
I
go.
am pumped.
Well, hey, we've got some viewer questions to cover. We've got just about 20 minutes left of the show, so I think we've got time to fill you in on what's going on and a couple other things. So,
Certainly.
what do you got for me?
All right, we'll jump right
Oh, you know
in
what?
here.
When he says your mic is low, he actually means...
Oh, it's physically low.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like I just looked over and her mic is actually pointing at the floor.
Sorry, guys.
So that's what happened. All right, give me
My
sound check.
bad. I must have
She's
whacked it when
flicking
I
her
flicked
hair.
my hair
Yeah.
the way. Sorry, world. The technical issues continue, but we resolve them. That's what we do here.
All
The
right.
beauty of live television. At any rate, let's jump right into the mailbag. Got a question comment coming to us from Kalecom in regards to episode 387 about YouTube viewer comments. So in the first part of the episode, you guys said we're going through the comments on the YouTube channel, I guess, and someone commented saying that they'd like to see the Cat5 TV sign that used to, in our past life, reside behind us.
At past studio, yeah.
Yeah. So it got Kalecom thinking that since we've already doing a green screen for the newsroom and Sasha set, why not maybe have a little small green screen on the brick background? And that way you could have Cat5.tv logo behind it, or maybe try it, buy it, if we're doing one of those episodes.
Okay.
Or whatever logo, maybe spice it up a bit for holidays, or putting people's viewer handles pop up on the screen.
Yeah, cool.
That sort of thing.
So our viewers' suggestion here, Keith, sending this in. It's a great idea. It's a great thought, but I want to show you what actually happens here. So I'm just gonna stand up real briefly here because I've got to reach over and grab a piece of green screen.
A hunk of
there
green.
we go. Okay.
Here we go.
So this is for the sake of demonstrations. I'll show you why such a thing couldn't work.
Okay. Do you want
Because-
me to assist you?
Sure. Do you want to hold that up
I can
for me?
hold this.
Okay. So we'll pretend that that's behind us on the wall.
signage.
So when it comes to virtual space, so we've got a newsroom, for example, that looks like this.
Mm-hmm.
When you realize that space actually looks like this, it's kind of mind-bending.
It is.
Right? So you've got that. That's the real physical space, and there's the virtual space where Sasha sits. Now, Sasha, of course, is helping us out with the camera tonight, so she's going to help us with the presentation. So what happens when you mix real-world objects such as ourselves or anything else into the virtual space? So if this is the virtual space, well, let's hop on over to Telestream Wirecast. I'm going to just load up a mouse so that I can actually control this with a mouse rather than touchscreen. There we go. So I'm going to bring up my wide shot here.
Okay.
And I am going to set up chroma key on that shot.
Whoa.
Okay. So now, as you can see,
Cool.
the thing that's in Hillary's hand
Is invisible.
is invisible. Okay. So if I now add something to the shot below that, so let's use that. Okay.
Ooh.
So I'm going to place kind of an outer space animation on that canvas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now we've got this kind of cool thing going on, right? So now
That's cool.
observe the planet that's there, because
Yes.
remember, that planet is in virtual space. We are in physical space. So Hillary,
Yes.
move the green screen a little bit. And what do you notice?
I'm losing the planet.
The planet does not move with the virtual space because the virtual space is static.
Right.
So now, Sasha, could you slowly zoom in on me?
Okay.
And now observe what's going to happen behind me here. So you see that?
Oh, what the heck?
Yeah. So if we used a chroma key screen
Gotcha.
for the logo, now you can zoom back out again. You'll see what happens. See? Because the virtual space is statically
So
set in the frame.
interesting. Wow.
So while the concept, the premise behind it would be fantastic, you would literally have to pull out the entire background and never move the camera.
Right.
Right?
Interesting.
It works on a newsroom set because Sasha is always in the same physical position.
Right.
So she doesn't have to get up and move around. There's nothing moving in the shot other than Sasha. Thank you very much.
Oh,
Whoa.
there we go.
Where'd it go? How cool is that, eh?
That is really cool. Blows my mind.
Oh.
So
Andy
crazy.
asked if Wirecast, can they do a live motion tracking to solve that?
Well, see, that's where post-production comes in, is you can do motion tracking, which is as the camera moves,
right.
you have points where it's actually able to move within a 3D space in the virtual realm as well as the physical realm.
Gotcha.
Wirecast doesn't have motion tracking. It has amazing. You can agree with me. The chroma key is spectacular.
Oh, yeah.
We're live tonight, and we're able to do that
That's so cool.
like that.
Easy.
Live, right?
So easy.
So it is. It does very, very good
Incredible.
for what it is built for, but it does not have motion tracking. So unfortunately, that is not an option. Thanks so
Cool.
much for the interesting question. I appreciate that.
That is interesting. And actually, I have another comment here, I believe, that is relating to this sign issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
The sign is really.
The sign.
We need the logo.
We need to know what we're
I did have
watching
one
here.
suggestion that came in that was to do more lower third stuff. Like sometimes we bring
yeah.
these kinds of things in, and we could do stuff like that, and then that could work really
True.
well. Yeah, and that's just another layer in Telestream Wirecast as well. Sorry, go ahead.
Interesting. That's okay. This is from Spice Jacks.
Hey, Spice Jacks.
Saying a way to display the sign would be utilizing our suspended ceiling. And there's clips that you can attach to the grid and then hang the sign down with fishing line. A lot of retailers do that in stores for posters and signs. So he offers a link to a possible sample of one of these.
Cool.
So
I think where that to me would be problematic is only the fact that I would expect it to kind of wave with
our
the
windy
movement of the
fans we got going on here.
And that's something actually that was raised during our Google Plus Hangout last week, was a similar suggestion to that. And it was suggested maybe we put something behind it. So we'll see what comes about. I have been in touch with a couple of local sign companies, including the company that did our vinyl, which you saw earlier, the Category 5 Technology TV logo on the blue wall in the interview area. So hopefully they'll come up with something that's reasonably cool and reasonably inexpensive and come up with a good solution for us. So that would be great. Thank you all for your comments. Wanted to, of course, just make quick mention of our bobblehead here as we pay respect to the past Leonard Nimoy. He's had such an impact on so many lives over the years, especially us Trek fans. And funny story with our bobblehead. Couple of things that have happened with him. We had to actually remove him from the set because our camera kept seeing him as a real person for the autofocus. So it was behind us, and the camera would all of a sudden focus on the bobblehead. So do you remember the days when the wall behind us was in perfect focus and we were out of focus? It was because of our bobblehead, we figured out. So it was all Leonard Nimoy's fault, right?
Oh, boy.
Next story for you. After following one of our episodes of Category 5 Technology TV, where we had the bobblehead over our shoulder on the shelf behind us, I often upload pictures to Twitter. And this happened to be around the time that Twitter was experimenting with their facial recognition system and all this kind of stuff. So I simply had uploaded a photo to Twitter of us on the set. It was a screenshot. And as soon as it uploaded, it said, with at the real Nimoy.
It recognized.
I couldn't believe it.
So
It blew my
funny.
mind. It kind of creeped me out a little bit, but it actually thought that Leonard Nimoy was here on the set with us of Category 5 TV and put it direct to his Twitter account.
That would have been cool.
That would have been awesome.
But that's pretty funny.
So that was the closest I have ever come to meeting the man.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
But he did live long and prosper. So peace, long life to you all. But he will be missed.
Yes, for sure.
All right. So let's jump into, do we have some more questions?
Sure. I do have another question.
Great.
Coming
We've got
to us
10 minutes left to the show. So if
okay.
you've got questions for us in the chat room, throw them our way.
We can
I
do
see
this.
Sasha's over there with her, she's got her phone and she's watching the chat room at the same
monitoring
time.
it, giving us some stuff. Beauty. Okay. Dennis Kelly writes to us asking, do you know why, or, sorry.
I don't know. I don't know.
I just read it wrong. Do you know this? No, I don't.
I don't know.
Do you know why I lose my USB support for my USB mouse? I'm using Linux Mint 17 on my laptop, and it's just a generic mouse. What's the deal?
Well, you'd have to try a couple of different things. First thing I would try, the first thing I would try is the obvious thing. Did you unplug it and plug it back in again?
So simple.
I know, it sounds dumb. I had so much trouble when we moved into this space with our flash drive. Because, as you know, we've got fairly limited internet bandwidth here. So when we moved into Studio D, I decided I would buy a really fast USB 3 flash drive, and I would copy the file after the show and take it home with me and upload it using my home internet because it's faster and it's less expensive. Great idea. But at the beginning, I had some real trouble with it. And then I found out, as I was plugging it in one day, that the port of my USB port that I was using every time, because it was the one on the front of the computer, it was the easiest to access, was actually physically damaged. I don't know if maybe the kids, when the studio was back at the house, if they maybe put something in there or something, but there was actually physical damage. So then I disconnected that port because it was seemingly causing some trouble with my USB, and plugged directly into the motherboard, and problem solved. It actually fixed the problem. So it could be a defective USB port, but it could be as simple as another thing that I would check is so from there, try a different USB port, but also check that you don't have too much stuff plugged into USB, because if you do, and those peripherals are powered by your USB bus, then it's possible that you're overloading the USB. There can only be so much stuff plugged in, and then it will drain the USB bus, and you don't have enough power to power the mouse, and it will just disconnect. Pardon me, not quite as likely. But in order to solve that, you can use an external powered hub and plug in high drain devices such as scanners, possibly printers if they have a USB card reader, things like that. Tablets, if you're charging tablets, that is a full draw on your USB bus there. Sure. So you can just plug those into an AC adapter, for example. So those are things. Other than that, if it's actually an OS-related problem, then I would suggest go into your terminal, become super user or use sudo, and type LSUSB, and it'll give you an output about your USB devices, and share that with us, share that with the Linux Mint community, and see if they can be of any assistance. Could be a module that's crashing. I have seen it where I had a server recently where they had plugged in a USB dongle for a wireless keyboard and mouse because they thought, oh, Robbie's coming to service our server. Let's give him a wireless keyboard and mouse so he can be at the desk rather than standing at the server. Nice gesture, but it rebooted their server.
Interesting. Huh.
Because there was and it turned out when I looked at the messages log, there was a crashed USB driver that had happened there. So check your logs. Check into that kind of stuff. If it is a module, then you might need to basically blacklist a module in your kernel. There's so many different things it can be. But LSUSB will tell us a lot more about your USB devices, and maybe we can go from there. So good luck.
Cool.
Yeah.
How are we looking time-wise?
I was just looking at that. We've got about 7 minutes left. And the reason we're kind of watching the clock tonight is because we were a little late getting started. So to us, we're not real time. So a little bit of a different schedule. But it's nice to see everybody in the chat room. Thank you for your patience tonight as we got up and running. And then during the news segment, my computer crashed.
Yeah.
And I had to reboot. So you didn't see, but that's why there were no graphics for the later news stories. But we got up and running again, so...
We're good. We're golden.
It happened live.
It's all good.
It's just one of those days.
Well, I think we have time for one more kind of question.
Great.
I think. So this comes to us from Smart Jacks. Or Spice Jacks, not Smart Jacks.
Hey, Spice
Jacks.
Smart Jacks.
Smart Jacks. I'm a little delirious today. Oh, sheesh. Okay, so... This kind of feeds into some of our technical difficulties. I think we got some questions, some comments happening.
Okay.
He says that he's noticed the sound problems lately with the AC fan going off.
Oh, yeah.
Some squeaking,
that was a
whooshing
problem.
of air. He's just wondering if there's an open mic or maybe an iPod phone or camera mic that maybe is picking up the sound as well. Someone else, a viewer, had mentioned that as well.
I'm not sure if we touched on this email, but it does ring a bell. Jack Smart Jack, whatever.
Spice Jacks, ignore
Martin.
me.
But yeah, you noticed that I got rid of the squeak, so that's wonderful.
The squeak is
and we're
gone.
working on kind of tweaking things, and audio is a big issue for, you know, it's really important to our studio. We've been working very hard to get the video quality up with the new camera and all that kind of stuff. What are you laughing at?
The fact that you put me behind the camera and you're trying to work on your
You could
stuff.
see she's standing right behind the camera because Adam couldn't make it tonight, and she's just laughing
giddy.
away.
She's giddy.
We need
So
a camera
nervous.
that's pointed your direction. But the camera looks great, and is, you know,
Oh, yeah.
every week is getting better. We're learning kind of, you know, I'm learning that, you know, blue probably works a lot better than some of the shirts that I've worn. Yeah, pops out of the screen a little bit better, and, you know, there's all these different things that we have to think about. And then when it comes to audio, of course, we're in a rented space now. So when I don't know, they have some kind of crazy boiler system. I don't know how they heat this place, but there are big jets of air that shoot out of the roof.
Pretty wild.
And we have no control over it. We don't even have a thermostat. So it's like we take what we can. So we were able to get the squeak out, and I think the fan noise is reasonable now, and that's just done through compression and stuff. So hopefully things are looking pretty good.
We're figuring it out.
Yeah.
He has another comment, another request, actually,
Sure, yeah.
to have a regular segment or another show on GUI-based Linux software. Maybe like Try It, Buy It. There's not much out there showing the alternatives to Windows-based software. You do the best demos I've ever seen on how to, Robbie. So if Linux is going to get any traction to convert Windows users, you've got to show them that the GUI, aka desktop Linux, is as good as, and in fact better than, Microsoft Windows.
Nice. First comment. I know we've read this email before. I'm sure of it because I've got severe deja vu.
Oh,
but then
maybe we have.
when you got to the part where he said that I do a really good job, I was like, I don't care.
We're reading it again.
That's really nice. So I'll take it.
Oh.
Yeah, we're expanding into different shows, and as far as GUI Linux goes, the challenge for us is, one, staying on top of the latest software so that we're kind of ahead of the game and able to show you. But the problem is, and I'll be straight up honest with you,
Straight up.
Compiz is dead.
Oh, Compiz is dead.
It's a really sad thing for people who love Compiz. And when I say Compiz is dead, let's take a look at our demo
Yes,
system
let's
here.
look here.
Okay. That's strangely cropped, so let's try this one. All right, so when I can do things like this, and when I can be doing a presentation for you and say, oh, just click over here, and I can zoom in like that, that is all powered by Compiz. So I'm able to do all of these, what you would normally call effects, but realistically, if I'm able to do that and show you on screen, it is able to, you know, you're able to see that better. And I'm able to point things out to you better. Now, because Compiz is dead, it means there is no more of that support. So as we upgrade our software, we lose that even in the studio. So we've had to hold back our software in order to still keep that functionality. So I wonder if maybe virtualization would be an answer, if we were to stay up to date with a virtual machine or something like that, and be able to give you some newer tech reviews. We'd be certainly happy to evaluate, you know, different products. But in the meantime, if you have suggestions for different items that you would like to see reviewed on the show, I'd be more than willing to look at that. Looking at a couple of games right now, interesting stuff that we may want to show on the show. So, you know, we were in some IRC chat rooms over the past little while and talking about, you know, different game developers and development, and see who we can get on the show. So there are, you know, some really neat Linux-based tutorials that are in the works, and interviews and reviews, and we'll kind of grow from there.
Cool.
Thanks for the comment. Thanks for the questions. And thank you, chat room, for being here. It's so great to see you. We've got viewers from all over the place tonight.
It's very cool.
And I see a pretty packed, busy show
yeah.
chat room. So good to see you. And we are literally just about out of time, but in the meantime, I'm going to see if we can get up our viewer location map. It's map.cat5.tv if you want to check it out. And when you go there, this will actually show you a pin for the viewers who are checking out Category 5 Technology TV tonight. And I see you from all over the world.
Awesome.
Thanks for tuning in.
We love
Except
it.
Libya, where are you?
Where are you?
Algeria. Oh, northern Algeria. There you are. And so we've got you covered, broadcasting all around the world. One thing that always makes me smile is that you can see, and if you've been watching the show for a while, you know that we really tried hard to get into mainland China after we were blocked by the Great Firewall. And so we got servers implanted in mainland China, and you see that our viewership is growing there. So welcome to the show, wherever you are, and thanks for tuning in.
Well,
It's all the time that we have. Can you believe it?
Time flies
What do
when
you
we're
think,
having
Sasha?
fun, people.
Wow, the hours just fly by faster and faster every week.
I know, right?
Wow.
Well, thanks, everybody. I hope you have a fantastic week, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next Tuesday night. See ya.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed the show. Category 5 TV broadcasts live from Barrie, Ontario, Canada every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. If you're watching this on demand or through cable TV, check out the local show times in your area at category5.tv and find out when you can watch live and interact in the community chat room. Category 5 is a production of Prodigy Digital Solutions and is licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 2.5 Canada. We'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in.